Grading every team's offseason in the NFL. Today, we're going to be doing the NFC North. You might see my hoodie. You might think I'm going to be a little biased, but Minnesota did practically nothing. So there's not going to be much to be biased about for Minnesota. And I am actually a big, not supporter, that's not the right word here, but I really think that the Lions are going to do very well. If you've seen any of my short form videos, my TikToks, YouTube shorts, or whatever, I am actually very high on the Lions this year. So I think that's enough to say that I won't be that biased. I try not to be biased at all. I'm sure it creeps in a little bit here and there. I'm going to try my best not to be very biased at all. Let's get right into it. The NFC North offseason grades for 2026. Wait. Let's get right into it. So, we're going to start off with the Chicago Bears. As always, I'm going to go ahead and mention that. Let me pull this over here, actually. As always, I'm going to mention that I have this Google Sheets that I made with every offseason move made by every single team. It's going to be linked in the description below if that's something you want. There's no reason for it. There's no reason to want it. I just like having everything on one screen, so I made it all on one screen. So here it is. Anyway, so let's go ahead and get into the NFC North, and we're going to start with the Chicago Bears. As always, I'm going to try my best to start with the coaching changes. Here, there's not much to talk about. Declan Doyle is headed over to the Baltimore Ravens to be their offensive coordinator and actually call his own offense rather than being behind and under Ben Johnson. And they just promote their passing game coordinator in Press Taylor. There's not much to talk about there, honestly. A lot of to be determined out, no matter what, irregardless, I think it's Ben Johnson's offense, so it really doesn't matter that much anyway, in my opinion. So, with that said, let's get right into the additions. So, they went, if you look at, okay, I guess we'll start with the 2025 team stats over here in the bottom right underneath me and my webcam. Clearly, the issue was on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, they're top 10 in every category. So defensively, that was what they needed to fix. Although, these stats right here, turnovers, takeaways, turnover differential, they were first. In my experience of being an NFL fan, which I've been an NFL fan for, oh God, how old am I now? I'm 25. I mean, I've been a fan of the sport for like 20 years, but legitimately die hard, watch every single game. I've been doing that since I was like 12. So a lot of football watching under my belt, and I can say these stats almost never stay true year to year. Though the turnovers, takeaways, turnover differential are pretty up and down. Great defenses, if they're great for a period of time, can keep them up, but they're still never, they're never going to be first back-to-back years. That was kind of a long tangent just to say, I don't think that's going to stick, but it doesn't matter. They'll throw more interceptions. They'll get less interceptions, just how the NFL works. But anyway, I say that to say they went heavier on the defensive side of the ball than the offensive side of the ball because of it. Because of the stuff above it, not that itself. Kobe Bryant from the Seattle Seahawks. You got a Super Bowl safety in there now. A 13.3 is a little high for my liking, but you needed him. Kevin Byard wasn't what he used to be, so you let him walk over to New England, and you get a guy that I do think at this point in his career is better. It is an upgrade, a little expensive, but do it every time. Devin Bush for the Browns last year played really, really well. Tremaine Edmonds, who you let go, we're bouncing from additions to losses back and forth here, if you haven't seen. But Devin Bush, you have coming in that Tremaine Edmonds spot. I do think that's an upgrade. Tremaine Edmonds was really good when you brought him in. He was kind of on his downfall. Not downfall, just wasn't what he was when you brought him in. I think Devin Bush has hit his stride over the last year and looks, if he can continue what he did in Cleveland last year, that is definitely an upgrade in my opinion. Do I have on the losses? I somehow didn't include the DJ Moore trade. Well, that's a mistake. I think I meant to have it first. Anyway, so DJ Moore also isn't part of this team anymore. As you can see me adjusting it right now, and I should be just talking. So DJ Moore is obviously gone. You bring in a Khalif Raymond. Okay, it's all fixed now. So you bring Khalif Raymond to I don't want to say replace DJ Moore. You just bring Khalif Raymond to add to your receiving core now that you do lose DJ Moore and Zacchaeus. He's headed over to Atlanta. DJ Moore, I don't think is much of a loss. I think what's very good for him was he provided health, he provided consistency, but he didn't provide much greatness. He hadn't been that good since Justin Fields was the quarterback there. He clearly wanted out. There's no issue there losing out on him. You trade him, you actually get picks back for him. You got more than what I thought you should have got for him as well. That needs to be noted. So Khalif Raymond just adding to that unit with a Luther Burden and a Rome Odunze. More importantly, I think Colson Loveland. I think he's going to have a huge factor in this offense this year. So all good with that. Khalif Raymond is a good depth receiver, and I think I've now spent way too much time on Khalif Raymond, so we're going to move on. Cam Lewis from the Bills comes over as a corner. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but something that is important to mention is that Drew Dahlman, their center, did I put that? Jeez, dude, I'm not going to put this right this second, but I can't believe I missed that too. He retires unexpectedly after a really, really good season last year. Last year when they signed him, I was like, I don't really care about that. He wasn't that good in Atlanta. Well, he went to Chicago and he was actually really good. Unexpected retirement. Well, now you have to go make a move. You trade for Garrett Bradbury, who's been how do I put this? As a Viking fan, and I saw him for the majority of his career, I would say just there's a word I'm looking for. Just has disappointed everywhere he's gone. In Minnesota, he was a first round pick, just never lived up to it. Has a really bad anchor, especially on pass plays. And well, that's really when you need an anchor. And that sucks when you're the center and you're going against this 300-pound D tackle and you have a bad anchor. We'll have to see if Chicago can work around that. Like I said, I didn't think Drew Dahlman was all that good in Atlanta, and then he came to Chicago and was good behind or with Ben Johnson and company. So I'm curious to see, can they fix Garrett Bradbury? He actually started off really good in New England last year, and that towards the end of the year, he kind of fell apart and looked like the Minnesota Viking version of Garrett Bradbury. So I think that is an important thing. I count that as it's a weird situation because I would say that's a negative because I don't think they're going to be able to fix him. But your center unexpectedly retired on you. It was, I believe, after, if I remember correctly, it was like after all the good guys were gone out of free agency. So you had to do something. That was their move. Yeah, so it's like hard to hold it against them when they did what they had to do. So I'm honestly just not going to let that count towards the grade because they could have done better had they known sooner. So we'll just won't count that towards the grade. And then, of course, a lot of extra depth signings on the D line. And then they actually get Jedrick Wills from the Browns, a left tackle, who has been very good in his career and took a big downhill towards the last couple of years, specifically last year. Chicago hopes that, honestly, at this point, they're probably just hoping for depth. And then, if needed, he can for a week or two, be what he used to be. When we're talking about this offseason, there's not a ton to talk about, to be honest. There's no huge big name signings, but there's also not a ton that they lost, and what they did lost, I thought they did a good job of replacing. So yeah, I don't have a problem with most of this. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was one hiccup away from throwing a fit and quitting on the team, so there's no issue losing him. And like I said, you lost a few safeties, but you bring in Kobe Bryant, who I think is an upgrade over all of them. Devin Bush, an upgrade over linebacker. Tremaine Edmonds, we're just repeating ourselves now. So, yeah, like I think, do they marginally get better? Yeah. They were 29th in yards allowed per game, 23rd in points allowed per game. Like I said, I think they marginally get better, so they go from... You got to add continuity into that as well, in my opinion. I mean, I would say maybe from points allowed per game, they go from like 23rd to like 18th, 17th, somewhere in there. Still a bottom half defense. So yeah, I don't know if they definitely went after the defense side of the ball, but I don't know if they did a good enough job. So let's head over to the draft that they had. They drafted Dylan Thieneman from the Oregon Ducks, safety. Is going to be across the field from Kobe Bryant. Really good move by them. As a Viking fan, that's kind of who I wanted. And we'll get to that when we get more to Minnesota. So Yeah, that sucks, but good good draft pick for the or dang it, for the Bears. So now you have Kobe Bryant, you have Thieneman, and then you have Bush, who I think is a slight upgrade over Edmonds at this point. But again, is he that much of an upgrade? Is he really changing this defense? I don't think so. Um, and then I do think it was important second round following that back up and getting another center just in case Garrett Bradbury doesn't work. I do love that. I love circling back around. So that's really all there is to talk about. I don't know. And this is going to be a common theme for this division, I think. There's not a lot to talk about for a lot of these teams. I can't give this a super high grade. I also don't think they did anything poorly. I think every decision they made sense. I was okay with it, which makes me say B. Here's a B. They got slightly better. They didn't do too much. I would like them to do more, especially with the season they had last year, but you also were under some cap constrictions. Yeah, like you did fine. And that's it. Maybe my fine. I've thought about this recently. Maybe my like average grade. I've been going with a B. That might be a little too high. Maybe my average grade should be closer to like a C plus B minus. But just trying to keep it consistent from what I've been grading, I'll give it a B. Some other teams that I thought had similar off seasons, like I think the Bengals, I gave a B because I felt like they did similar things. They slightly improved here and did a lot of things well, nothing great. Yeah, so like it's only fair for me to give Chicago a B as well because I'm just trying to keep things consistent. And let's get over to the Detroit Lions. No need to waste any more time. So they let go of John Morton, who they really needed to let go of. Dan Campbell started calling plays halfway through the year because it wasn't working offensively. And what do you know? The second he does, it starts working. Let me tell you, he shut me up. I remember making videos about it. I think it's for fantasy football, actually. If you were interested in winning your fantasy football league, check out my other page, Zealous Fantasy. Do a lot of fantasy football talk over there. It's not meant to change your opinion. It's just meant to give you different insight on different players around the league as far as fantasy goes. So check that out if you want to win your fantasy football leagues. Anyway, I believe I was hating on Dan Campbell, and again, maybe that's some of the Viking fan in me saying like, "Oh, he's like when he did that, he wasn't very good." Ben Johnson came in, now they're awesome. Like this isn't going to be good for Detroit, and it was amazing for Detroit, which is one reason why I like Detroit this year because Drew Petzing comes in. He was horrible for Arizona last year as an offensive coordinator. Granted, he didn't have this level of talent, but I also like there's a clear cut, hey, if this ain't working, we'll go to Dan, and Dan can get it done. So I really like that option for the Detroit Lions. If it doesn't work out, you can hedge your bet a little bit. And yeah, so that makes the signing of Drew Petzing a little less worrisome, in my opinion, where usually any other team, I probably would have had a big problem with it. Here I don't. Bringing Cade Mays was huge for the Detroit Lions. They had a hole at center. I thought Cade Mays was actually very underrated over in Carolina. They bring him in for the cheap. Very big move for them. They didn't have a lot of money to work with, but I thought a lot of the guys they brought in I really liked. Not Larry. Larry solid too, but I was meant to say DJ Wanham. I do think he's a solid edge rusher, depth edge rusher, but that's what he's going to be on this team. Isaiah Pacheco to replace the David Montgomery, who you traded away. You get some picks back for him. Do I not have that? What I did when I did this is I did everything starting from free agency. And so when a trade like that happened pre-free agency, I didn't end up putting it on here, but I want to have that on there. So by the time this video comes out, I will have not DJ Moore. We already talked about DJ Moore. I will have David Montgomery on here. Anyway, you lose David Montgomery, you bring in an Isaiah Pacheco. I like that. I think Jahmyr Gibbs will still get an increase in volume. Not a ton. I think it will be very similar to what it was at the end of last year. David Montgomery wasn't getting much work anyway. And so Isaiah Pacheco in that role, really like Teddy Bridgewater, been the backup there before. He's the backup there again. Solid. Anyway, so that's all good. You released Taylor Decker, which was a head scratcher to me, but we'll get to that in a second, actually. My follow-up to that. Alex Anzalone goes to the Bucks. And then that's really all I want to talk about. Mika Robinson's a good corner. Nothing to really cry about. Roger McCary, I think for in this Detroit scheme could end up being a very good corner as a replacement. You bring back Rockison. Malcolm Rodriguez is a really good re-signing and extension. Avante Maddox. So I think defensively, the Lions really don't have much to worry about. They have to sharpen up on this defensive side of the ball. They slacked last year, but I think what's going to really help them with that is this fourth place schedule that they're about to play. It's not included in this offseason rankings. I'm just pointing it out. Them getting the fourth place schedule is huge in this division. So I was talking about Taylor Decker. Blake Miller, offensive tackle from Clemson, first round pick. Perfect replacement. I assume, though, if I remember correctly, he is a right tackle, Blake Miller. He's someone that really can't transition to the left. So I assume Penei Sewell will be moving over to the left side of the line. I might have that backwards, by the way. It might be he's a left tackle, but I think I'm right. I think he's a right tackle, so Penei Sewell's going to have to move to the left, which is fine. You're not worried about that. If you're this team, like I said, you upgrade getting Cade Mays. I really like a lot of the moves they did, but I do think it's very similar to Chicago. There's not a lot to write home about. A lot of solid moves. You did well with what you had money-wise, but you didn't have a lot, so you weren't able to do a lot. I would say overall you lose more than Chicago did. I do like their depth signings more than I liked Chicago's depth signings. So not so. I guess just so, yeah, I do like their depth signings a little better, but you do lose more in my opinion. So I'm going to give them slightly lower, a B minus, but still overall a good offseason for the Detroit Lions, especially considering their cap situation that they were having going into it. So with that said, let's get right into the Green Bay Packers, who this is going to annoy me, so we're going to fix this. Boom. All right, the Green Bay Packers. So, very similar. They're broke. And so how do they do that? They get rid of a bunch of people. Rashawn Gary, traded. Elton Jenkins, released, which that was a shocker to me. Nate Hobbs, made sense because of the injuries. Made sense because of the injuries problems that he's had, but honestly, that really sucks in my opinion because I do think when he plays, he's a really good corner. Romeo Dobbs and Dontavian Wicks being gone, not very surprising to me. Quay Walker, like you lose a lot of people. I like Rasheed Walker as well. I thought that was a solid, underrated pickup for the Carolina Panthers. Malik Willis is kind of an underrated loss as well, considering Jordan Love misses games every single season. Honestly, Green Bay lost a lot more than I think I remembered before coming in to film this video. So, yeah, like they lost a lot. And how did they do replacing it? I do like Zaire Franklin, that trade that they did with the Colts. Javon Hargrave, as a Viking fan, he's washed. He's not what he used to be. At $11.5 million, it's not that big of a deal, but he isn't what he used to be, so he's not going to really add much to this defense. St. Juste is who he is. He's a fine corner, nothing more. I think they're downgrading at that tackle position where Rasheed Walker was, who had ups and downs, admittedly, but I do think is typically a solid tackle. Yeah, this is probably my least favorite of the ones we've talked about so far. You re-sign Jaden Reed, which $16.7 million a year. It's fine. Not a problem with it. I, again, didn't put it. But wide receiver Christian Watson got almost $30 million a year, and I absolutely hate that. That is one of the worst things they did of the entire offseason. He has yet to play more than 14 games in a single season, and now he's going to be making almost Amon-Ra St. Brown money. I can't stand that move. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I get proven wrong, right? Maybe he's actually stays healthy. And if he stays healthy, he could be awesome. I'm not going to doubt his potential and what he can be. But what I've seen and what he has shown me is he can't stay healthy. Therefore, he shouldn't have got $30 million a year. It's a 4-year deal, but I think it's more like a 2-year deal because the team can cut him very easily after 2. But still, I just don't think that was a good use of your resources. And the last thing I'm going to talk about, this was actually pretty quickly, but I've been pretty negative so far because that's just how I feel. Let's end on a high note, though. Jeff Hafley leaving sucks. Replacing him with Jonathan Gannon, very big W in my opinion. He was not a good head coach, but man, he can coach defenses. Um, we hope at least. There are some times where coaches go become a head coach. When they go back to their coordinator job, they're not that good. There's other coaches that go to their head coach, get fired, come back, and they're awesome. They're just awesome coordinators. I think that's what Jonathan Gannon is going to be. So, bright side for Green Bay is I think they have a good defensive coordinator replacing their great defensive coordinator. Downside to that, this doesn't really count for this offseason stuff, but I do just want to make a note of it. It looks like Micah Parsons ain't going to play first half of the season with the losses that they had. I actually think Green Bay, as well as Minnesota, we'll get to in a second, is in danger of being the worst team in this division in 2026. So not a lot here. A lot of losses. The signings you made, I didn't love it. I liked the trade, the Zaire Franklin trade, but that's pretty much it. I thought the extensions you did were okay to bad. Man, there's not a lot to like here. I'm going to give them a C. I'm going to give them some benefit of the doubt here. The defense coordinator signing was very good. It was elite, in my opinion. Von Hargrave's fine. He's not 11 and a half worth it, I don't think, but he's fine. And again, I like Zaire Franklin. So we're not going to go below a C, but we're not going any higher than a C either. They get a C. And now, I did that 2 weeks in a row now. I've started to pause there like I was going to cut, but I don't cut these videos very often. I try to just let them flow and let them feel organic and natural. So that's awkward. Anyway, so let's get back on to Minnesota. Last team we're going to talk about clearly. It's the last team of the division. And look at all these moves. Ain't much, huh? Coaching, nothing different. Cool. Which is actually, no, hold on. That's actually very underrated. And that's something I should spend some more time on and give Minnesota a little more credit for. Because it was very... There was a point in this offseason where it felt like Brian Flores was going to leave and become a head coach. And the second he wasn't going to become a head coach, there was legitimate talk about him going to be a defensive coordinator somewhere else. So Minnesota ponying up the money to keep him as a defensive coordinator here is worth mentioning. And I do think that is something that should be a part of this offseason grade because that is very important to this team. Let's look at these defensive stats. Third in defensive yards allowed per game, seventh in points allowed per game. And I think a lot of that has to do with the offense being so bad. I think they were actually a top 5 in both categories if the offense isn't as bad as it was. So that is a very big W on their part. And if we want to talk about teams that got the most value for their buck, Minnesota probably wins the offseason. James Pierre, I think, is a very underrated corner. Admittedly, I didn't know much about him until Minnesota signed him. As a Viking fan, I started doing some research on him, and I'm like, this dude's pretty freaking good. We got him for $4.25 million. Johnny Hecker, he's always been one of the better punters in the league. And then Kyler Murray at a vet minimum. That's great. Even if he doesn't end up starting, you're not going to get a Kyler Murray level, Kyler Murray type player for that cheap any other time. So, yeah, like as far as bang for your buck goes, Minnesota killed the offseason. Now, we'll skip to extensions real quick and then get back to the losses. Eric Wilson actually played kind of out of his mind down the stretch of the season last year. So bring him back for $7.5 million. It's a little much for the short sample size of the really good football he played, but if he's able to keep it up, it's well worth it. And Carson Wentz as your QB3 at $3 million is insane. I would also argue he didn't sign to be the QB3. There's a part of me that wonders if the loser between Kyler and JJ McCarthy is getting shipped out of town. I've never heard that from anywhere. That's just a guess I have. Carson Wentz, did he really sign to be a third string quarterback? I don't know. All right, let's talk about the losses real quick. Jonathan Grenard, I hate that trade. You didn't get his value, in my opinion. You gave him to Philly for next to nothing. I just don't like the trade at all. Didn't think it was worth it, and didn't really think it was that necessary either. If you go look at what he ended up getting in Philly, let's take a peek. He got $24.5 million a year. Pay him. I mean, you still got Ginkle, and you still got blanking on his name. I almost said Will Anderson, the other Bama edge rusher. I'm blanking on his name, but you still have them. But at the end of the day, Dallas Turner, at the end of the day, it's awesome to have three of them. It's awesome to be able to rotate them in and out. And when one gets injured, like that happened this year, Ginkle was hurt for a little bit of the year. Grenard got hurt for a little bit of the year. It's awesome to have extras. And for 24 and a half, I'm giving them that easy all day, every day. I hate that trade for Minnesota. Harrison Smith retiring. It says post cut, but it was retiring kind of. He's either retiring or he's going to come back. So I'm going to hold that. I'm not going to hold that against Minnesota at all because I don't know what's going on there. It kind of feels like recently he's going to come back, but we don't know. Again, Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave, both washed at this point. Not bad losses at all. Last one I want to talk about is Jalen Naylor. I really, really liked him as the wide receiver 3, but Minnesota, I forgot to put this here because, again, stuff that's happened recently I haven't put yet. I'm not going to do it right now, but they got Jawan Jennings. So you still upgrade at that position. So that's not going to be a big complaint for me. So ultimately, again, that adds to this value deal, though, that Minnesota's been going on. Ultimately, the contracts you do have are awesome. I really love the contracts and the values that you did, but you didn't get much for a team that's kind of hard to read. A lot of these teams, I can look at them and understand what they're trying to do. Minnesota's a hard read right now. I think they're trying to compete. They didn't quite show that with their offseason, but like they're everything they say they're trying to compete. The Jawan Jennings deal, the Kyler Murray, that feels like they're trying to compete. I mean, I know Kevin O'Connell's trying to compete. If he doesn't make the playoffs, there's a good chance he gets fired, which I think would be the wrong move, by the way, but that is a realistic possibility. I didn't mention also the first pick or first round. Minnesota gets Caleb Banks, D tackle from Florida, who's coming into the league with a foot injury, and foot injuries don't tend to do well on big men. So that is a big risk in itself. If he works out, that's going to be huge for this Brian Flores defense, though. But I do think that's a pretty big risk for your first round pick. To encapsulate it all, I'm giving them a C plus because I love the contracts that they did. It's hard because I actually don't think Minnesota lost that much as opposed to like a Green Bay did, but one of the losses feel like they shot themselves in the foot with the Grenard. That felt unnecessary. So maybe they should go down to a C, honestly, because like that really rubbed me the wrong way. I think what I was gonna give it a C plus for was being able to retain Brian Flores. Because if you can keep this defense the way it has been and then just get this offense into top 15 range, then this is a team that can actually compete and make the playoffs. If not, this is going to be a team that finishes last in the division and everyone gets fired. So really hard to determine what's going to happen here. I guess I can't go without feeling super strong one way or another. I don't know if I can go higher than a C. I can't go higher than a C plus, but do I want to give them a C because of the Grenard trade? I'm going to say if I'm going to knock it for the Grenard trade, that would mean if I gave it a C plus, then I thought it was a B minus, which I don't. So they have to get a C. I'm trying to take my bias out of it. The Minnesota Vikings get a C for the little that they did. Good contracts, but not much work being done, and they shot themselves in the foot getting rid of a player that I didn't feel like they had to. They could have just paid the man, and he would have been happy. So the Minnesota Vikings get a C. So that is how we ranked the NFC North for their offseason grades. We only have 2 divisions left, so that's actually insane. What are we going to do after that? This page is going to die. I'm lying, by the way. I'm going to find something. I have a few videos planned for afterwards, which I will get to soon. But yeah, we have the NFC South and the NFC West. I have shortly after that, we're going to be doing what I like more, honestly. I like doing what I've been doing with the offseason grades, but I really like sitting down and like narrowing in on a specific topic. And so the video after the offseason grades is going to be the worst to first videos. Who is most likely to go worst to first? I'll give a few different teams, but we'll narrow in on like 2 to 3 teams, and that's what I really like to do. So that is coming soon, and that will happen a lot throughout the offseason up until August. And then in August, we'll be giving predictions and everything else. So make sure to subscribe if you enjoy sports content in general. It's been stupid heavy on the NFL because that is my sport. That is what I love. But I also really love hockey, and I really love the NBA. Okay. I really like the NBA. I honestly quit the NBA for a little bit because I am a Maverick fan, and they traded Luka, and that genuinely hurt my love for basketball for a little bit. But we back. This last season brought me back. We are back. I haven't picked a team yet, so comment below if you made it this far who my team should be in 2026 for the NBA. I'm thinking Denver because we just moved out to Colorado, so I'm thinking I might switch to the Nuggets. Got Jokic and all that good stuff. But I'm a free agent is what I'm trying to say. I might pick up coverage from the draft for NHL and NBA, but yet again, maybe I don't. I don't know. I got to be 100% honest. I know for sure I'll make some videos whenever free agency comes around for both sports, but I don't know when exactly, if I'll start before that or if I'm not starting till then. Regardless, content's coming either way. If you like sports at all, make sure to subscribe. You're going to like what you see here. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. As I always say, do all of the YouTube things, and I'll see you next time.